Hello, welcome to Gurukul's CAT 100 series, a series that's designed specifically to take you from your study room to the corporate boardroom. I am Prady and this is Verbal Mastery with Prady. So welcome back to another video. Now, this is your passage for today, and in case you want to attempt this as a test, all you've got to do is go on to www.thegurukul.org.in and click on the login button. This would redirect you to a sign up page where you've got to sign up for the 100 days to CAT test series. Now, this is a free test series that's aimed at bringing one quant, LRDI and verbal ability test for you every single day till your CAT 2025, so that you could stay consistent with your preparation and crack CAT 2025 in the first attempt. Now, without any further ado, let's get into the passage and the questions. Now, this is your first paragraph. Please pause the video here, jot down all the main points, and then we're going to go into the second paragraph. This is your second paragraph. Pause the video here, jot down all the main points, then we're going to go into the third paragraph. This is your third paragraph. Pause the video here, jot down all the main points, then we're going to go into the questions. Now, this is your first question. Pause the video here, answer the question, then we're going to go into the second question. This is your second question. Pause the video here, answer this question, then we're going to go into the third question. This is your third question, guys. Pause the video here, answer this question, and then we're going to move into the fourth and the last question. So this is your fourth and the last question, guys. Pause the video here, answer this question, and then we're going to go into the passage and question explanations. What does the passage talk about? While historians once propagated the myth that Africans were brought to the New World as slaves contributed little value but their labor, a recent study by Amelia Wallace Vernon helps us to dispel this notion by showing that Africans introduced rice and the methods of cultivating it into what is now the United States in the early 18th century. So what do I understand? Okay, once propagated, over here propagated means spread. Okay, so historians, they spread this kind of a myth, a story that, you know, Africans who came to the United States, they only contributed to the United States through the labor. But this particular study by Amelia Wallace Vernon, okay, that is throwing light onto this notion. It is taking away, it is removing this notion. Okay, it's removing this notion. And it is saying that no, so Amelia Wallace Vernon is saying that no, Africans actually taught Americans, or actually they brought in the cultivation of rice into America back in the 18th century. She uncovered, that means discovered, she uncovered, for example, an 1876 document. So here uncovered, we can also think of uncovered as found. Okay, so she found an document of from 1876 that details that in 1718, starving French settlers instructed the captain of a slave ship bound for Africa to trade for 400 Africans, including some who know how to cultivate rice. So there was a document in which there was this historical event. This discovery is especially compelling because the introduction of rice into what is now the United States has previously been attributed to French Acadians who did not arrive until the 1760s. So before, the entire history used to think that rice in the United States came from French Acadians who came to the United States in 1760s. But now we found a document which says that these French sailors, they wanted to trade for 400 slaves who knew how to cultivate rice, and they came to the United States in 1718, which is before the French Acadians, which means that these African Americans were the ones who actually got the cultivation of rice into the United States. So Vernon interviewed elderly African Americans who helped her discover the locations where until about 1920 their forebears. So this forebears is nothing but the forefathers, okay, the previous generation, all right, had cultivated rice. So this Vernon, she went and she spoke to certain African American people, and those African American people actually took her and showed her where their forefathers used to cultivate rice. Now that we've understood the first paragraph, let's move into the second paragraph. At the heart of Vernon's research is the question of why, in an economy dedicated to maximizing cotton production, African Americans grew rice. So there was one question in the mind. So she got a fact. Now there's a question in her mind that why did these African Americans even grow rice? Okay, when cotton was all the rage, when cotton was in demand. Okay, she proposes two intriguing answers, so two confusing, two very exciting answers for that matter, depending on whether the time is before or after the end of slavery. So there's one answer. So she got a fact, all right, and from that fact she got a question in her mind. The question is why rice? Okay, and now there are two answers, answer 1 and answer 2. So answer 1 probably was for the time before slavery ended, and answer 2 is for the time when after slavery ended. Right. So during the period of slavery, plantation owners also ate rice and therefore tolerated or demanded its after-hours cultivation on patches of land not suited to cotton. In addition, growing the rice gave slaves some relief from a system of regimented labor. So regimented labor, that means organized labor. So some kind of an organized, or in this context we could say supervised, okay, labor under a field supervisor, in that they were left alone to work independently. So they got little bit of freedom. Okay, so before slavery ends, what is the reason that we get? That plantation owners, okay, plantation owners ate rice, so they cultivated this, and some land was not suitable for cotton. Some land not suitable for cotton. Okay, so they just wanted to grow rice in that land which was not suitable for cotton. All right. After the abolition of slavery, however, rice cultivation is more difficult to explain. So now, before slavery ends, we are able to clearly understand why we needed rice. But what about after slavery ended? That is more difficult to explain. African Americans had acquired preference for eating corn. So these African Americans also did not want to eat rice so much. They were eating corn, and there was no market for the small amounts of rice they produced. And under the tenant system, in which farmers surrendered a portion of their crops to the owners of the land they farmed, owners only wanted to take cotton as a payment. So now there are 3 challenges. First thing, African Americans, they got used to eating corn. They wouldn't eat rice themselves. The market that was there for rice was also very, very small. Third thing, there was a system called as the tenant system. Think of it like the zamindari system, if there's a parallel for you. Okay, so where the farmer, okay, he's not having the land by himself. So what is he doing? He's going to someone who has the land. He'll cultivate it. He will sell the produce, but he has to give small part of it to the owner. And that owner, in this case, would only accept cotton as a payment, not rice. So why in the hell were they even producing rice? That is the question. Now, at the end of the second paragraph and the beginning of the third paragraph, we get a conclusion to this. The labor required to transform unused land to productive ground would thus seem completely out of proportion to the reward, except that, according to Vernon, the transforming of the land itself was the point. So what's he saying? So you doing all this work, okay, of transforming the entire land to cultivate rice, that entire effort seems so futile, so useless. Okay, the reward is very, very small. But the point was not selling rice. The point in itself was transforming the land. Okay, so after slavery, now if we continue the answer from the previous slide, so after slavery, these people want to transform the land. Okay, but one question is, why did they even want to transform the land? So here Vernon suggests that these African Americans did not transform the land as a means to an end. That means this was not, they didn't transform the land so that they would get something, but rather as an end in itself. In other words, they did not transform the land in order to grow rice. It was, so they didn't do all this work just to grow rice. Instead, instead transformed the land because they viewed land as an extension of self and a home, and so wished to nurture it and make it their own. So why did they transform land? To this sub question in the answer, we get another answer, that they had a sense of self when they looked at the land. Okay, so the first thing is they had a sense of self when they looked at the land. In addition to this cultural explanation, so this answer is nothing but a cultural explanation. So in addition to this, there's also a political explanation that's being told over here, and that political explanation is that next step after the emancipation means the freedom. Okay, emancipation is nothing but the freedom. So after being free from slavery, okay, the symbolic claiming of plantation land that the US government had promised but failed to parcel off means give. Okay, here parcel off means give away. Okay, so whatever the claim was, okay, if they are planting or if they are doing their own agriculture, this was a symbolic way of showing the US, okay, symbolic way of showing the US that they promised something, but those government people did not deliver on their promise. Now that we've understood this entire passage, it's a very nice passage, let's get into the questions and see what the answers would be. But before we go there, since you've stayed till here, please drop that like, because that actually helps us to get these videos up and running for you every single day. It motivates us a lot. Now, if you have a friend or if you know someone who is really worried about their CAT 2025 prep, this is an excellent resource for all of them. So please share this video with them. Let's get into the questions. First question, which one of the following titles most completely and accurately summarizes the contents of the passage? So again guys, this entire question is nothing but the best title type of question. So what is the best title for this passage? That's what he's asking. Now remember, the best title should not be too broad, okay? The same way it should not be too narrow also. It should have enough of the details to actually bring out the topic, but not too much about the topic in itself. So that is the criteria. So keeping this criteria in mind, let's look at the answer options. The first answer, the introduction of rice cultivation into what is now the United States by Africans and its continued practice in the years during and after slavery, accurately tells us exactly right from the first paragraph to the last paragraph what has happened in the passage. So this is a very strong contender for my correct answer. Now let's look at B, the origin of rice cultivation in what is now the United States and its impact on the economy from 1760 to 1920. The problem over here guys is about the impact of its economy. Nowhere in the passage did we really talk about the impact of economy or impact on the economy by rice cultivation, right? So I can remove this as an out of scope choice. Now C, widespread rice cultivation by African Americans under the tenant system in the years after the abolition of slavery. Now this is again a very partial scope choice where we're only talking about the years after the slavery. We're not really talking about, you know, how rice cultivation got introduced or anything. So I'm going to remove this. D, cultural and political contributions of African Americans who were brought to what is now the United States in the 18th century. Now again, this is too broad. Okay, if we are looking at this option, this is what I meant by answers should not be too broad. Why? Because here we're talking about the entire cultural and political contributions of Africans. No, but in the passage there was only one thing that was mentioned, and that was about the rice being introduced, right? So this should not be our answer. The best possible answer now becomes option A. So let's move to the second question. Which one of the following most completely and accurately describes the author's attitude towards Vernon studies? That means, how did the author perceive Vernon studies? See, let's be very, very honest. The author was only positive. There was no negative sentence about or no negative adjective or adverb about Vernon study. That means he was really receptive of her ideas and he actually admired or he appreciated her bringing out this research. So let's try to find an answer in such regard. Respectful of its author? Check. And skeptical towards the theories. Now this skeptical means having certain doubts, right? But the author really did not have any doubts towards the theories. Why? Because he showed that there was some proof, no? So clearly A should not be our answer. Admiring of its accomplishments and generally receptive to its theories? Yes, check and check. So this could be one of our answers. Appreciative of the effort it required? Great, okay, positive enough. And neutral towards its theories? No. He was not neutral towards his theories. He actually accepted those theories. So I can remove this as well. Enthusiastic about its goals but skeptical about its theories. Again, over here, the skeptical part is what is killing this answer. So the best possible answer, guys, over here is option B. Let's go to the third question. Now, as described in the last paragraph of the passage, rice cultivation after slavery is most analogous. Analogous means similar. Okay, it's most similar to which of the following of these four? Now guys, this type of question is a theory to application type of question. Okay, where some kind of a theory has been told in the passage, and here he'll give a completely unrelated or a different scenario which is trying to apply the same thing, and we'll have to figure out which one of them is correct. Alright, so clearly first let's try to identify what the theory is, okay, that he's asking in the question. So last passage he's talking about the rice cultivation after the slavery. Why did Africans cultivate rice after the slavery? First thing, they cultivated rice because they needed to have that land as their own. They wanted to feel that sense of self. Although they didn't own the land, they felt that the land is their own. Second reason, so this is the main reason, they thought that this is a symbolic way of protesting against the US government who had promised them the land but did not deliver on it. So let's see which of these options actually holds both of these premises. A says a group of neighbors plant flower gardens on common land adjoining properties in order to beautify the neighborhood and create more natural boundary between properties. So did the Africans actually clean the land and all just to beautify it? Absolutely not. So this does not really tie up to the premise that we have thought about. B, a group of neighbors plants vegetable garden for their common use and to compete with the local market's high price produced by selling vegetables to other citizens who live outside the neighborhood. No, see, over here the analogy would be if the Africans wanted to sell their rice for money outside somewhere, okay, but that was not happening, no, so this should also not be the analogy. A group of neighbors initiates an effort to neuter all domestic animals in their neighborhood out of a sense of civic duty and to forestall the city taking action of its own to remedy the overpopulation. Actually, this has absolutely nothing to do. It's a disgusting option where they are trying to neuter all the domestic animals themselves. So we're just going to remove this because A, it does not have anything to do with the premises that we're talking about. So the last option, a group of neighbors regularly cleans up the litter on a vacant lot in the neighborhood out of a sense of ownership. So we got our first point over here where we are talking about a sense of ownership over the lot and the protest. Great. We've gotten both our points that was required. So D should be the perfect answer and D will be our correct answer. So here they're saying that they have a sense of ownership just like the African people and to protest against the city's neglect. Here it is the city's neglect, over there it is the US government failing to deliver on their promise. Okay, let's go to the last question of this passage. Which one of the following most completely and accurately describes the organization of the passage? Now guys, this comes under the structure of a passage type of a question. So how is the passage given? So the passage, if you remember, started out with a fact that Africans contributed more than labor. Okay, they contributed to rice as well. Then there came a question as to why did they even do it, and then there were two answers. Answer 1 was about before slavery, answer 2 was about after slavery, right? So this was the organization of the passage as we have seen. Now let's try to find an answer that actually fits through this narrative that we have read. A historical phenomenon is presented, several competing theories about the phenomenon are described, and one theory having the most support is settled upon. So, okay, let me think that this is a historical phenomenon. Okay, several competing theories have been described, that part is gone, right? One theory was chosen? No, really not, right? So I can remove A. B, a historical discovery is presented. Great, okay, let me think. This is the historical discovery. Method leading to the discovery is provided. Nowhere did I find out about the method. Okay, let me just wildly even assume, okay, that the method was going and finding the document, talking to these African Americans. Even if I was to think that, okay, 2 questions left unanswered. These questions were answered and there was only one question, right? So what are we even talking about over here? So B should not be the answer. C, a historical fact is presented. Great, that's what we've seen. Question raised by the fact is described. Yes, the question is described. 2 answers to the question are given. Great. This actually fits, so I wouldn't even want to go to this D option, but just for the sake of CAT exam, because I don't want to lose my 3 marks and another mark along with it, I will go here. I will eliminate this option and only then will I mark C answer. And you got to do this too in your CAT exam. Please remember that. Okay. So D, a historical question is raised. Possible answers to the question are speculated upon. Speculated upon. No, this is wrong. They have not speculated upon anything. Speculation is guessing. Okay, so they didn't guess anything. They had evidence. This woman got a document. She went and spoke to the Africans. Okay, and 2 reasons for difficulty in answering the questions are given. No, they were not reasons for, in difficulty to answer the question. They were in fact the answers to the question. So clearly I can remove D as well. The best possible answer would be C. Now that you watched the video till here, please drop that like button. Comment in the comment box how many questions you've gotten correct, and if there's any doubts, please do not hesitate to drop it down in the comment box. We'll get back to you as soon as possible. Share this video with a friend who's eternally confused about CAT 2025 prep. Guide him towards the light. I'll see you in the next one.
Hope you enjoyed learning from today's session.
This series is designed to help you with your CAT preparation and practice daily. We are with you in this journey.
To watch the next video, click here. And to watch Gurukul's CAT 100 series, study room to boardroom, the entire playlist, click here.
If you learned from today's session, like, share, and subscribe.